What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and in a move that came pretty much out of nowhere because I didn't expect to see this for maybe two plus more months. Basically, Nvidia have actually announced a new top of the line graphics card, and what that is it's basically the new Pascal based version of the Titan. So it's called the Nvidia Titan X, as you'd expect. To be honest, though, I'm a bit strange that they call it the Titan X. I know they can't call it Titan Z because that's already out there, but they could call it Titan Y. I know X sounds cool and all this stuff as well, but you'd think that they would go with a new name for a new generation of architecture based Titan cards. So it's a bit strange anyway, and it came out of nowhere. If you're familiar with the man himself, whose name I usually butcher, Jen Sung Hwang, I believe his name is, but I probably butchered it, he's the head of Nvidia, as well as a guy with exceptionally badass taste in leather jackets. He announced that the new Titan X, the direct, I was going to say direct X10, that the 10 series Titan X, which will be available in a few weeks at the start of August. And he went over a lot of the specs and all with it as well. Now, because this is the Titan X and just Titan cards in general are pretty high end cards, they're like bleeding edge cards. I'm only really going to compare it to the GTX 1080. Now, as a GTX 1080 owner, I can give my opinion on it as well. Yeah, at least I feel like I can anyway, especially because I've been using the 1080 Founders Edition from EVGA in pretty extreme conditions the last 2 months I've had it. So yeah, it's been pretty going pretty well. But anyway, the main thing as far as the Titan X, the new Titan X, the Pascal version versus the standard stock GTX 1080 is the Titan X has 3,584 CUDA cores versus 2560 in the 1080. You've got a base clock of 1.42 gigahertz on the Titan X, which is actually a little bit slower than 1.6 gigahertz on the 1080. The boost clock of the Titan X is 1.53 gigahertz, again a little bit slower than the 1.73 found in the 1080. It uses 12 gig of GDDR5X RAM, the same type of RAM you'll find in the GTX 1080, but the 1080 obviously only has 8 gig of it. You won't find the GDDR5X in, say, the 1070 or the 1060. Those cards just use regular GDDR5. The memory bandwidth is a significant improvement, at least, over the 1080. The memory bandwidth on the Titan is 480 gigabits per second versus 320 on the GTX 1080. The TDP is rated at 250 watts versus 180 watts. Again, both of them are exceptional. It just shows off one of the real main benefits to Pascal, just in general. Like 70 watts is nothing. Someone who's going to put a Titan in their computer is going to have a 1,000 watt power supply plus anyway, so it's basically irrelevant. It uses the GP102 processor as opposed to the GP104 that was found in the 1080. It's got 12 billion transistors. Now, that's almost double what's in the GTX 1080. The 1080 uses 7.2 billion transistors, so it's using 12 billion, so it's nearly twice as much. And here's the last thing I'm going to mention here now, is in the official comparisons at least anyway, is the price. So I know there's price gouging, especially on the 1080s and the Founders Editions. And because of all that as well, I'm going off the manufacturer's stated retail price, okay? So we all know a couple of months ago when Nvidia announced the 1080 that they said the 1080 is going to be $599 as an MSRP. Obviously, the Founders Editions and all will be more expensive as well, but the standard GTX 1080 is listed as $599 MSRP, but the Titan X is $1,200. The official price MSRP from Nvidia is $1,200. That's crazy. Now, I know historically Titans have been in around that. I'm not adverse to paying for expensive hardware. My GTX 1080 Founders Edition cost me €835. What was the other one I'm going to go with? My CPU, my i7-5960X, that one cost me like €1,107. So I'm not adverse to paying these prices. Now, for obviously based on what you're getting, but I can't say the new Titan X, the Pascal Titan X, I can't say if it's going to be a rip-off or if it's going to be worth it. For the simple reason is, while we have all this stuff on paper, The actual real world performance is yet to be seen. Obviously, if you have a GTX 1080, if you have a 1070 or even a 1060, you're not going to need to upgrade to a Titan X. Obviously, because you bought a 1060, well, you will be buying a 1060. Actually, no, they released a few days ago. You either have just bought a 1060 or you've recently bought a 1070 or 1080, and you don't need to upgrade. Now, having said that, okay, because all this is on paper, and we don't have the actual benchmarks and the actual real world performance yet, based on what we see, spec comparison wise, it does look like the price of the Titan X will not give you an extra 100% performance over the 1080. Simply because one of them is $600. The other is $1,200. The spec on one compared to the other is not equally double. It's not literally doubled. So because of that, I know it doesn't 100% work that way for PC hardware, but just because of that as a baseline, I don't think you're going to see the performance that would be exactly double in line with the price of what you're paying. Now, I'm going back to something I said a minute ago. Having said all that, people who buy Titan X's, you do pay a premium. Not just Titan X's, just Titan cards in general, or even 1080s. People who buy these extremely high-end hardware, we know there is a large premium on that extra little bit of performance. Now, I say extra little, but it's little is relative. So, having said all that, okay, do I think a GTX 1080 is in trouble? God, no, a GTX 1080 is not in trouble whatsoever. When I say it's not in trouble, do I mean, is there any games it can't play out? No, God, no. A GTX 1080 will destroy anything you put up against it. You can get 2 GTX 1080s for the same price as a Titan X. Run them in SLI, you're good to go as long as your game supports SLI or whatever. Most games do nowadays, but you get the idea. So if you have a GTX 1080 and all that, it's any of the 10 series cards, you obviously don't need to upgrade. What I do think this will have a big benefit is if there were people that looked at the GTX 1080 and they looked at the aftermarket 1080s, the ones with better cooling and pre-overclocks and all that as well. People who are looking at that and said, okay, this is very close to what I'm looking for in hardware. Some people were looking at certain games in, say, 4K 60 FPS with max settings, things like that. The people that were looking at the aftermarket cards, the Asus Republic of Gamers Strix, there was another one recently from MSI. I think it was Gaming Z, MSI Gaming Z. They had a pre-overclocked, extra cooled 1080 as well, and that one could come exceptionally close, depending on the game, based on for 4K 60 FPS with stuff maxed out. So I do think that this Titan X could possibly be that card to play, I won't say everything, but a lot of the stuff maxed out 1080p 60 did I just say 1080p 4K 60 FPS? What kind of pleb am I saying that? Jesus. Jokes, guys, jokes, right? Jokes. But anyway, you get the idea. This card could, for the overclocked 1080s and stuff that were either on the bench line or just under it, this Titan X could be the thing to give it an extra 20% headroom over it. So this could be that card. So this could be for those enthusiasts that were waiting for a 4K 60 FPS capable card. Single core, because obviously some games don't run SLI, or SLI scaling is terrible in some games. So this could be the card for them. And having said all that as well, a couple of months from now, what I would usually estimate at 4 months from now, but given the current hardware cycle, who knows? It could be even sooner. It could be much longer, but it also could be sooner. We'll probably have the GTX 1080 Ti in approximately 4 months. Again, I'm just guessing 4 months here, but usually they're in around the 6 month mark. But yeah, you have you will have a GTX 1080 Ti at some point, which will probably be somewhere almost as good as this new Titan X, but obviously it'll be better than the regular 1080 Founders Edition and stuff. So where will that sit? Sure, it'll probably be priced a bit more expensive than the 1080 Founders Edition. It'll be priced under the Titan X. The performance, where will that sit? As well as the actual real world benchmarks and real world performance tests of this Pascal Series 1080. That's a very, very important thing I think we're waiting for. Am I worried about it? No. Sure, one of my friends is going to try to give me shit. He'll probably wake up in the morning or tomorrow, whenever, and just say, "Oh, so your graphics card's out of date." I'm like, no, it's not. It really isn't. He goes, "Oh yeah, but it's not top of the line." It's technically it's still top of the line for 2 more weeks, and then it's second best, and it can still max everything I play at 1440p. Like, what's your point? And he's just a troll. That's the easiest way. I usually don't feed into his crap, but sometimes I just slam him down and put him in his place. It's great. But anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think of the whole Pascal series, this new Titan X, if you're looking into, say, 1060, 1070, 1080, whatever it is, and what you think we're going to see performance-wise based on the Titan X versus, say, the 1080. I think there'll be maybe a 20% difference at most. Could be wrong, but we'll wait and see. Let me know all that anyway in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter. Details in the description below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.